Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the official Nerd Talk channel. My name is Tyler, aka Monover Nerd, joined by my co-host AJ Reacts to It. We are back for the final episode of OVR for the year 2024, which is absolutely bananas. It just felt like yesterday we were doing our first one last Christmas for a Black Christmas, and now we're here doing the last one for 2024. We are giving you guys another holiday themed episode of Originals versus Remakes, and today we are covering the three different versions of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, or if you want to be annoying like an Illumination, The Grinch. I'm very excited about this one because the Grinch holds a lot of nostalgia for me in both the good ways and the bad ways, and tis the season and all that fun stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the original Grinch, starting with the original 25-minute shorts released in 1966. So, How the Grinch Stole Christmas was directed by Chuck Jones and Ben Washam. If you don't know the name Chuck Jones, I don't know what kind of childhood you had because that name resonates most with Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. And he also worked in the Disney department. He was very heavy into animation, and it tells the story of it's a very simple one of a Grinch who is miserable with his little dog Max, and he decides I'm going to ruin the Christmas of the Whovilles and take everything they own and take every single toy because I hate Christmas and I wish they hated Christmas too. That's basically what the story of this is. So I wouldn't be able to tell you when I saw this for the first time. This is one of those things that it's always been in my life. I've always owned it. I remember my dad had it was the DVD and it had the red case and then the slipcover was like all glittery and it had the Grinch. It was cool. And then eventually I bought the Blu-ray. You can't really see it, but my store had it, so I wanted it. Yeah, it's always been something that's been in my life, for as long as I can remember. It was like you had to watch the Grinch around Christmas. It was either that or I remember I think I had a book of the Grinch too. It was something that was always in my life. This and the Charlie Brown Christmas. It was like those were the two things that were like, yeah, those are yearly watches. And so, do I hold a lot of nostalgia for this? Absolutely. When I hear that theme song, it is just iconic. And that's mainly why I enjoyed this little short for what it is. It is short, sweet, simple, and to the point. It tells the simple story of someone who is absolutely miserable and he wants to steal Christmas and he learns that that's actually a terrible thing and he learns to have a heart and learns to, be respectful and caring. And there's nothing wrong with that. Is it very surface level? Absolutely. But it's dumb. It's dumb and it's fun and there's a good message behind it. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. If you don't have the Blu-ray, I'm not saying this is an absolute necessity, but if you love the Grinch, go out and buy the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is fantastic. The animation pops like I've never seen it before. Um, the voice work, the little voice work that we get is really good, and the little characters that we get, they work for the story, and it just works. It's 25 minutes. And you're not hating yourself. You're just sitting there. Come on, let's get the family together to watch the Grinch. Is this my go-to Christmas thing? No. I'm before it's even December, I'm watching Christmas Vacation. That's just how it is. And if it's not that, it's a Charlie Brown Christmas. But it's classic in my opinion, and that's all that matters. AJ, what are your thoughts on the original Grinch?
So the Grinch has always been in my life, like ever since I can remember. I know that I probably seen this like when I was very little, like 3 years old. But like there had been a while, like a long while before I watched it again and like actually like realizing what was actually happening. Probably I want to say middle school, not middle school, like elementary school, like 10 years old. I was like actually like aware of what was going on in the movie or special. Um and the Grinch never the character of the Grinch never really grabbed me. It never really clicked with me. The story the Grinch character himself. Um, I don't know why. I couldn't really tell you why, but it just never did. It's not like it's boring or anything. It's kind of funny. After the rewatch today, um, I kind of like realized some things. Like the animation is very good, especially for that time. Um, there's a lot of like funny little moments here, like when he's actually stealing Christmas and he's like acting like the ornaments are like pool balls. Like that's just it's just like has a charm to it. It has an undeniable charm to it. Um, and it is tried to be recaptured with these other films, and we'll talk about those later. But I think this special has the most charm out of any of the other ones. Is it my go-to Christmas film? Absolutely not. But I do watch it quite often, pretty much every year. But like if I skip a year, I'm definitely watching it the next year, So um it's cool. It's a cute little, short little special, but it's never my go-to. But I like it for what it is.
But before we move on, we have to talk about the incredible Grinch song.
The song is probably my
And
favorite part of this special. The
see,
song and how
it is
short it is.
mine. It is mine too. But I'm not. It is an amazing song, but that's not why I love it. I love it because of the lyrics in this song. This man, listen to some of the amazing lyrics in this song. He says, and I quote, "You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul." And he wouldn't even touch him with a 39 and a half
And a
foot
half foot
pole.
pole.
That kind of rhymed too, which I
I mean,
intended.
yeah, like the whole thing rhymes. The whole
But
short
it's
rhymes.
hilarious. It's
Yeah,
so funny. You hear these at one point he calls him a sauerkraut. Like
yeah,
like
yeah.
bro.
Toadstool sauerkraut sandwich.
Oh, like it is hilarious. It's
Yeah,
so funny. And that's just again, it's something that these other versions unfortunately don't really capture that well. But that's why I love this one because it captures everything it needs to in more than half the runtime for some of these movies. With that said, let's move on to our second version of The Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas 2000, directed by Ron Howard, starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch. He's the main casting in this movie. I mean,
Jeffrey
uh,
Tambor, isn't it?
yeah,
He's the mayor.
Taylor Momsen is Cindy Lou. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is a cameo in there somewhere. I don't know.
Molly
But
Shannon is in it as well. She's
yeah,
big.
and tells the story of the Grinch who plans to ruin Christmas for all citizens of the town. That's the gist of it. There is unfortunately a lot of things going on in this movie. This is another movie that was around for me for a while. My mom loves this movie. We watched it a lot as a kid, and I didn't really remember it. And then one Black Friday, I think it was 2021. This 4K was like $10, so I bought it, and I was like, "Hey, it's the Grinch, it's the Grinch. I gotta have it, childhood." And we did a watch along for it light years ago on Alex's channel.
I think it was like 2 years ago.
And after that watch along, I was like, ooh, ooh.
Maybe three. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, yikes.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I'm glad I had the animated one. Listen, I know a lot of people cherish this movie. If you cherish this movie, this is a Christmas classic for you. More power to you, bro. Heat up the hot cocoa, get in front of the fireplace and watch this movie. I'm happy for you. As for me, I find this movie to be rather annoying. There are things I admire about it. On paper, I like how practical everything is. I appreciate that. Whoville is brought to life. This is Whoville. For better or for worse, this is Whoville. um, Jim Carrey as the Grinch was a perfect casting. If you're going to make a movie like this, Jim Carrey as the Grinch is who you would get. And he is very good. He does a lot of the physical comedy very well. And I think in terms of the concept, his costume is cool. You look at it, you're like, yeah, that's what the Grinch would look like in live action, for better or for worse. He's got these like long, furry fingernails, and it's hilarious. You know, he is the Grinch. He's very good. That's about where my positives end.
Mm.
This movie is very watchable. It is, but with the egregious runtime that this movie has of 100 minutes, this movie feels so long. And just like I said, it gets annoying at a point. It's just, it feels like people just yelling and screaming. It's like, it sounds like I'm describing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not. But I mean, like, it's just a bunch of nonsense. And it's just, you could feel it. It's just padding out the runtime. And it just does not need to be. Like, if you're going to pad it out with something a little bit more interesting than this. I don't need to see the Grinch being bullied in school and then like that's like, oh god, that flashback is the
The
thing of
flashback.
nightmares, bro.
The animatronics, man.
Oh man.
So
And then the movie had, I feel like the movie kind of doesn't know what its audience is either, because you'll have like these really obnoxious jokes, and then you'll have a joke where it's like, what did you just say? It's like, it's ridiculous. And when you finally get to the Grinch stealing the stuff, it's like, I mean, is it cool to see in live action? Sure, you know. But by that point, I was actually on the phone watching it with AJ when it finally got to that point, and I was like, oh, finally, you know. It's just exhausting, and it to think that people like this over the animated one, the original animated one, is just, it's beyond me. To be honest, you know, is the original animated one very surface level? Absolutely, but at least it doesn't annoy me. This movie is just like, it's like I said on my letterbox. It's like a little kid taking a fucking drum, taking the metal for 100 minutes next to my damn ear. That's what it's like watching this movie. I don't know. It's just one that I don't really like going back to be honest. AJ, what are your thoughts on the live action
I
Grinch?
get it. I understand where you're coming from with that. I do have some of the same feelings, but um first I'll start with my positives. I do like you said, this movie is very, very practical. I think there's like one sequence that I noticed that wasn't practical when there's like little people, like little who's running around, or they're like driving this car and like the Grinch is like trying to get them out of the car and they're running out of the car and it looks like green screen. But other than that, like everything else looks pretty practical, and if it's not, it looks good. So like I really love the wardrobe, the prosthetics. I think Jim Carrey was said it's like it was like terrible, like trying to do all that prosthetic every time, to go on set. But you could tell that this movie had a lot of care, like it had a lot of effort put into it. It wasn't just like a half baked, production. Like they really put a lot into it, and I can't even imagine with all those practical effects and practical sets and stuff like that, how long it took to make. Um, but yeah, everything looks really good in this movie to me. Um, Even though the Grinch does look terrifying in some shots, and
There's a
those
close up of him. I was
the
like, oh
Grinch.
my god! Imagine seeing that in the theater, bro.
As a kid,
God,
you'd be
yo.
terrible. You wouldn't sleep for a week. So I thought this was a Christmas movie. Yeah. But yeah, like I just think it was a lot of production put into it, and I appreciate that a lot. Jim Carrey in this role, he was born for this role. Like, and honestly, he is kind of unrecognizable. If you didn't know Jim Carrey was this
Oh yeah,
character, you wouldn't really even be able to tell that it's Jim Carrey because
you would only
of the
guess it by
prosthetics,
like his mannerisms.
his mannerisms, like how he speaks and stuff like that. Yeah, of course. But like you wouldn't even be able to tell. But he does such a good job as this character, and like this is how I would want this character to be put in live action. And we'll talk about the differences and stuff, but his characteristics are different than the original, and even the Cumberbatch version. But um, yeah, so I love Jim Carrey in this movie. I think he does a phenomenal job. I think that might be all my positives, and I don't have a whole lot of negatives, but the negative that I have is huge. It is way too long. The movie is way too long. If they would have made this an hour 20 minutes, I think it would have worked a lot better. It does have a lot of things going on, but I think the things that are happening are fine with me. If they tightened up the runtime and made these things not as, drawn out, dragged out, it really feels like they took the special and like they stretched it as much as they could. And like you said, with the padding of the runtime, like you could tell when he's getting ready to be like become Santa Claus to go steal things, like he's prepping for that for like 15 minutes. I'm like, bro, we don't need that. We don't need to see him prepping for that. Like some of the stuff is funny, I admit, but like kind of cut some of that down, make the runtime tighter, and it could have been a lot better, and a lot more watchable. Like I feel like one reason why I don't watch this movie that much is because it's it's way too long. Um, I do think this movie is hilarious. I found myself belly laughing multiple times watching this movie. Is it
Physical.
ridiculous? Is it Looney Tunes? Yes. There's this part where he throws Max, or Max like flies out of of his thing, and he lands in the snow, and you see a dog shape. Yes, you see the dog shape. I laughed like uncontrollably when I saw that. It's
I was on the
hilarious.
phone. I was on the phone when that happened.
And even when he's still in Christmas, he sucks up like this cat, and
Yo, the cat.
the cat gets stuck with the vacuum in the vacuum, and it's hilarious. Like I belly laugh at this movie. It's hilarious, but like it's just it just could be tighter. Like the runtime, the stuff shouldn't just be dragged out like it is. But yeah, that's how I feel about the 2000 How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I like it just because it's hilarious. But if they, made it shorter, it probably would have been better to me.
All right, moving on to our third version of the Grinch, titled "The Grinch," not "How the Grinch Stole Christmas." The Grinch, released in 20. I'm sorry, Illuminations. The Grinch. You got to remember that. So, Illuminations. The Grinch was released in 2018. Was directed by Yaru Cheney and Scott Moiser. Moiser, I don't know. It looks like they mostly worked with like what the hell is his name? Kevin Smith.
Okay.
That's what it looks like. Oh well, Yaro Cheney is one of like the main people from Illumination, and then the other one is the one from Kevin Smith.
Okay.
But tells the story of again, it's kind of the same thing, but it's not the same thing as the live action one. It's more or less like the Grinch was like an orphan, and nobody gave him gifts on Christmas, and so that's why he's miserable.
Hmm.
Sure. Um, yeah, and then the stuff that's the same is like it's the same from the short. Um, so this was the first time watch for me. I remember I tried watching it several years ago when it was put on Netflix. I watched 25 minutes of it and turned it off because I was bored to tears. Um, so I was kind of dreading watching this movie actually because Illumination is very hit or miss. You'll either get something really, really good like the first Despicable Me or the Super Mario Brothers movie, or you'll get something insanely annoying like any of the Despicable Me sequels or Minions. So that I was kind of like, okay. And I had heard from several people this movie wasn't great. And maybe it's because I went in with low expectations, but I kind of liked it for what it was. I kind of liked it. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. This movie actually has some of the similar issues that I have with the live action one, but
Hmm.
I think it was cute. You know that's what I was. I was like. it was cute. I didn't mind watching it. You know, the animation is very good. Illumination never struggles with that. The animation was pretty good. Um, Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch is kind of hit or miss. On paper, that's a perfect casting. On paper, on in execution, some of his lines are pretty funny. Other ones, it seems like he's trying a little too hard to be like evil, the Grinch. Um, some of the humor is really funny. I like when the alarm clock goes off and he keeps playing Christmas music and he keeps throwing things at the clock and he has to keep hitting it. I was like, sure, it's Illumination humor, but sure. Um, Cindy Lou in this movie, I actually kind of liked her role on paper. I feel like they don't really do anything with it, and it's a shame because her motive is like, oh, I want to find Santa Claus and make it that he can help my mom because she's struggling raising three kids. I was like, that's really good. I like that. And then they kind of just fizzles after a while. I was like, that's actually something that's really good, and they kind of just don't do anything with it, and it's a shame. um the Grinch antics before he, goes and steals everybody's Christmas, I thought were pretty funny. There's a scene where he has to like steal a sleigh, and he has, Max and I don't know what the animal was,
It's like a
but
moose or something.
a moose, Fred the moose. That's what he names the moose, and I thought that sequence was pretty funny. This there's a scene in the supermarket I thought was hilarious. I don't know why I thought it was funny. I just thought it was where this woman's trying to reach up for something and he grabs it. She was like, "Are you gonna get that?" He's like, "No." Puts it back on the top, and she's still trying to get it and goes doof, and then it falls over. I was like, "Yo, this is such a mean thing to do." And then just this whole sequence where he's like walking through the town and trying to avoid everybody. I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's pretty funny." The movie's short. Thankfully, it's only 80 minutes, so they only added like an hour to the short instead of like another 30 minutes on top of the hour that they add. And the sequence where honestly, from when he goes to steal Christmas until the end, it's kind of beat for beat the short. They don't really add anything in there to where it's like, no, this is different. It's pretty much the same thing. So realistically, they only added about like 40-ish minutes to it, which, listen, I can't complain. It's innocent enough. You know, it'll entertain kids. I didn't hate myself watching it. And come December, I wouldn't mind watching it again. To be honest, I don't mind watching it. It doesn't annoy me. It's got the stupid illumination humor, sure, but I could put that aside if it means that it's kind of innocent for what it is, and it's entertaining, and it flew by for 80 minutes. It flew by. What are your thoughts on the Illumination Grinch?
So this was a first time watch for me as well. It was like I had it, I owned it because my mom bought it for some reason, and she gave me the Blu-ray, and I just put the digital in. I sold the Blu-ray, but I had the digital, so I watched it on digital. Um, this movie didn't offend me. It just wasn't for me. I felt like a lot of things didn't click, but I'll start with the positives here. Cindy Lou Who, I really liked. I liked her demeanor, like her, attitude. She kind of had like a little sassy attitude too. And she was kind of gangster too, because her mom would be like, say something to her. And she said she had like a whole lot of coats on, like a sweater, a coat, and a hat and scarf and all that. And she was like, "You got a whole lot of stuff on." She was like, "Yeah, a little sweaty too." She said it just like that. I was like, "Okay, Cindy." She kind of reminded me of Indespicable Me, Agnes and Edith mixed together. She kind of reminded me of them. They kind of like, she was like sledding down some hill or whatever. She was like, shortcut, like that. I was like, okay, she kind of got like a little attitude to her. But I did really like that character. The Grinch himself was fine. Nothing really impressed me about the character. Like you said, they do have the segment where he steals Christmas, and I feel like that had less charm than the original.
It's
Um,
very 2018.
yes,
Like
it felt like
he's
more of a
shooting like
heist. Yeah,
yeah,
it felt more of a heist than him like actually meticulously going in, taking. And I always thought it was like, okay, this is another thing. It's not. It wasn't funny. I think it was just more like a like it felt like a heist. It felt like a Illumination Despicable Me heist. In the original, they kind of made it funny where he's taking the tree, he's stuffing it up the
yeah.
chimney, trying to stuff it up the chimney. And then in the Illumination version, like he has like these guns to like make the tree skinny, and then he just
Yeah.
like pops it up the chimney, which it's cool. Like he's still in Christmas. It's essentially the same thing, but it doesn't have that charm, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, with the backstory of the Grinch, I feel like I kind of like this backstory better than the live action, but I didn't find it as fun. Like it's not funny, you know what I'm saying? Like this movie didn't have a lot of like it didn't make me laugh a lot. But we'll get into the comparisons later. But it didn't have like that charm to me. It wasn't like extremely interesting. Cindy Lou Who has this thing where she's trying to trap Santa Claus. That also feels like a heist. And it's just like I don't know, it didn't feel funny or whimsical or anything to me. So like I said, it didn't offend me, but it just didn't really click for me. But yeah, that's the Grinch 2018.
All right. Moving on to the similarities between all three, and right off the bat, the main central heist is in all three of these movies. Also, we somehow did not talk about the absolute goat of all three of these movies. Max the dog, ladies and gentlemen, is the absolute goat of all three of these movies. This man does not utter a single word in all three of these movies, and god damn it, is he the absolute goat. I absolutely love that dog, and it helps that I'm a dog person, but he is so cute and so innocent in all three, even in live action. He's very adorable. Um, and that's pretty much it. And he learns the same lesson in all three, for the most part. Mainly the live action, it kind of fizzles out.
Mhm.
So, moving on to the differences, and right off the bat, the length of all three of these are different. So the short is 25 minutes, the live action is 100 minutes, and then the illumination one is 85 minutes. Also, Cindy Lou's purpose in each three is different. So in the original, she shows up once and then she leaves, and that's it, pretty much.
Mhm.
Um, in the live action one, she's kind of roaming around, like, but I feel like so in the beginning they try to make her like a main character, but at a point she is so far in the background to me that it's like, who are you at a point?
Yeah, I
um
feel like somewhere in that second act, like the end of the first act, beginning of the second act, she's kind of MIA, but then she comes back a little bit later and has a significant role.
the illumination one, she is much more prominent, and well, we already talked about her role, but she
Yeah, she
has a
got a
very
DLC.
significant role.
She got a
Yeah.
DLC
Yeah,
mission in the
which I
Illumination.
wish, I really wish it wasn't that way. I wish that it had been more. If they had put a lot more of their cards into that, I feel like this movie could have hit so much harder if they had just dived more into her wanting to help her mom and all that.
I feel
You
like
know,
they split the movie
they
with
definitely
what's
did.
going on with the Grinch
Yeah.
and what's going on with her, which they should have been together. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they
Because at
don't
a
really
point
even meet until the end, right?
they don't,
Yeah, they
and
don't meet until the very end.
at a point it kind of feels like the Grinch stuff kind of fizzles out, because there's like a good 15 minutes where she's hanging out with her friends and doing all this stuff.
Mhm.
It's like, and then we cut back to the Grinch going to steal that sleigh, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a thing. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, the backstories for the Grinch are different in each version. In the original, there is no backstory, which is what I prefer. Um, in the live action, they make it that I can't talk about this movie without thinking about that damn prosthetic of him, younger, bro. Oh
The
god,
baby one,
it is
the
the
animatronic.
thing of nightmares, bro. Um, but they make it to where he was a child and he got bullied and he was trying to like ask a girl out and he just kept getting bullied and that's why he like hates Christmas in a nutshell.
Yeah,
And even moving away from the backstory, they do like all these shenanigans where he's like hanging out with the mayor and the townspeople and stuff. It's so exhausting. It's so exhausting. And then the Illumination one, they just make it that he was an orphan and nobody brought him gifts on Christmas, and that's why he's the way he is.
yeah. He saw everybody else having a good time and having fun and enjoying Christmas, and he was just alone.
Which I kind of like that better. Like you said, you like it better, but I like that better because it's like it's simple, it's surface level, but it doesn't make it to where it's like it's so on the nose. Like I feel like in the live action one, they just kept going and going and going to the point where it's like, okay, we get it. That's why he's miserable.
Yes.
Like it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
In the
I feel like
Illumination one,
oh, so go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like in the Illumination one, it's just kind of like it's just simple enough to where it's like, yeah, this is why he's the way he is. You know.
Hmm. The relationship with him and the townspeople are different in the live action versus the animated ones. I feel like he lived there like when he was younger in the live action,
Yeah.
and they just had like this resentment for him, like just because he's ugly, or he didn't do anything wrong per se, but just
Mhm.
because he looked weird, he's green, he's furry, they kind of like have this resentment towards him, and then like you say, he gets bullied, and then he starts crashing out, throwing presents and throwing stuff. So, they kind of are like, oh, the Grinch, he's scary. Oh, he's doesn't like Christmas. He doesn't like this. But like in the animated ones, they don't even really have any connection with the Grinch. Like especially the original. Like
Yeah.
I don't even think they know who the Grinch is.
They
Like
don't.
up until the end. Um, but in the Illumination one, they know who he is. The townspeople know who he is, but they're not really bothered by him. Like, they
They're
when he went
not.
into the city, they were just singing at him. They were just singing to him. Like,
The one dude, I wish I remembered his name, but the one dude with all like the Christmas lights on
oh yeah,
his house, he
Keenan
thinks they're
Thompson.
friends.
Yeah,
I knew
Keenan
it was
Thompson.
Keenan. I didn't
Keenan
even look it
Thompson.
up. And I was
Yeah.
like, "That's Keenan Thompson." I didn't even look
He's
it up. That's
yes,
hilarious.
he's very Keenan Thompson. Like, yeah, all right,
Uh,
Grinchy,
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. But
I was like,
yeah.
okay.
So like, I felt like that affected how things played out in each film. His connection with the townspeople. Um, I don't know. Like, it. Part of me feels like the live action it's deeper because he did have that relationship with them in the past, so it cuts deeper. But also, I feel like it's just a lot more simple with the animated ones. So I don't know. It has pros and cons to both.
And that's kind of my issue with the live action one. It's like it tries to do too much. The
Mm,
Illumination one, sure, is it simple and very surface level? Yeah, but you're taking a 25-minute short and stretching it out. Like
yeah.
if you're gonna stretch it out, just make it at least a little bit stretched out. Don't make it to the point where it's like, oh my god, you're adding all this crap onto it.
Yeah.
Also, the Grinch acts different in each version. So the Grinch, he is very much just like, I want to steal Christmas, and all that. The live action one, you got this dude rubbing onions all over himself, eating glass. It's like,
Chomping on some glass, bro,
God,
like
bro.
they potato chips.
Again, it goes
Yo, him
back
with the
to
jackhammer. Yo, him as the test dummy, bro. Yo, I don't even really know why they did that. Maybe because the sleigh, but like they were testing the sleigh. But him in the test dummy
yes,
suit,
bro.
and he just smashes against the
Both.
wall. It's a lot of physical humor
Slapstick,
in
yeah.
that live action one. I think that's why I like it so much. But
And then in the Illumination one, he's more like the original animated one,
mhm,
but he
yeah,
what am I trying to say? I don't know. I guess there's something about him that's different than the animated one, the original animated one. I can't put my finger on it, but he's a little bit
I
more
feel like he's
different.
not as like evil. Like he's not as menacing in the Illumination one. He's just like upset. Like he's just
Also,
mean.
he depressed eats too.
He does. And oh, that's another thing I was gonna say. The humor is different in each one of them too.
Yeah.
And the Illumination one has kind of like that Family Guy humor where they'll say something and then they'll cut to the scene showing it happen. He was like, "Oh yeah, I binge ate the other day," and then they cut to him binge eating, like a montage of him binge eating. So yeah, that's another difference.
And the last difference is that the Grinch song, and unfortunately, is different in all three versions. So
Mm,
in
well,
the
the original in the live action, it's the same song, but it's sang differently.
well, I mean, it is in the Illumination one too. But I'm
Well,
saying,
it's different lyrics in the Illumination one.
oh
I looked
yeah,
up the
it
lyrics.
is.
Oh, it's
It
different.
is.
I was like, okay,
Um,
that's a choice. I think it's
but
Tyler the Creator who raps in the Illumination one. Okay, that's a choice.
but yeah, the original, it's the original song, and then the
Hmm.
live action they sing it kind of the same way,
And I
and
think
then
it is Jim Carrey singing it in the live action one.
oh wow, I didn't
Yeah, I
know
think
that.
it's actually because the Grinch is singing it.
Yeah,
So
and then the Illumination one, it's if it's Tyler the Creator, I don't know.
I
Its
think it's
point is it's annoying.
yeah,
It's annoying, and I don't understand why they thought a rap rendition of the Grinch was a good idea. It's
it's
not.
2018.
Stop changing things. What's worse is that they put another version of it in the trailer, and it's even worse.
Mm.
It's bad in the trailer.
I don't know if I ever
Um,
seen the trailers for that movie.
all right, moving on to what the definitive version of the Grinch is, and I'm gonna switch this one up a little bit. So I'm gonna say which one I think between the two films is, and then which one between all three. Although you guys can kind of do the math. So between all three, I'm gonna say the animated Grinch, the classic animated Grinch. I think that is the one that I can digest the easiest of these three. Made it sound like the original was really bad. It's not. I love it. But of the two, like theatrically released films, I'm going to say that the Illumination Grinch is the better of the two because it's a lot more digestible. You know, it doesn't feel like it's doing too much. It's not as obnoxious, which is crazy to say about an Illumination movie. It's not as obnoxious, and it kind of captures that Christmas spirit more than the live action one for me. That's just how I
Mm-hmm.
feel, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
the just know that the original is my favorite. But like I said, of the two films, the Illumination one is the one that I would prefer. AJ?
Okay. Okay. Um. So I guess I'll go and do the same thing. Out of the three, I would say the original has the most charm out of all three. But I will say that I would probably watch the live action, and I think the live action would be my definitive version out of the two films as well, just because it makes me laugh. Do I love the story? Not really. Do I love the story of any of these? Not really. But the live action, I, I'm not like I'm paying attention to it. It doesn't lose my interest, and it's hilarious. So that's what I'll say.
All right. That is gonna do it for this episode of Originals versus Remakes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Going into first of all, thank you for another amazing year of Nerd Talk. Cannot, like I said, cannot believe it is December 2024 already. But thank you guys for another year of Nerd Talk. We had an absolute blast this year, and we're recording this ahead of time. But hopefully, we have hit 200 subscribers by then. If we have, thank you guys so much. And if we have not, get us to 200 subscribers. What the hell are you waiting for?
It's free. It's free
Yes,
99.
it's absolutely free. Please leave a like on this video, and once again, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell for all notifications for future Nerd Talk live streams and videos. Going into next year, we will be trimming down the amount of originals versus remakes that we will be doing, just to because of life things. We want to trim it down, so we won't give you guys one every month. We'll probably give you guys like one every couple of months, but we will be giving you guys one next month. It is for the Wolfman in preparation for Lee Winnell's remake of the Wolfman, titled Wolfman, not the Wolfman. Um, so hope you guys are ready for that. And once again, thank you guys for an amazing year of Nerd Talk. We will see you guys in 2025. Everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from the Nerd Talk crew.
Merry Christmas.